All right, friends, it's time to talk about my best books of 2025.
We are monsters. We give and we take.
Hey Bookish Babes, and welcome to my book nook. If you're new around here, the name's Rainy. I read all types of books, primarily fantasy romance. So if you're interested in that, please like and subscribe to my channel down below. 2025, I am not gonna lie, was a rough year for Rainy all around. Reading-wise, mentally, emotionally, physically, all the different things. It was a rough year all around. And so I had a kind of mediocre reading year, if you will. Now, there were some bangers amongst it. And out of 100 books, I had 28 5 stars. That's pretty good. That's over a quarter of my reading. So I do approve of that message. And there were some really good books that I read this year. In fact, almost every 5-star I wanted to talk about in this video because that is how I have gotten at making a book a 5-star. Like, if it gets a 5-star, it is fantastic. Like, I don't just give a book 5-star for vibes very often anymore. It has to really razzle dazzle me in order to get that coveted 5-star slot. And so narrowing it down to top 10 was basically impossible. And I do have honorable mentions because I just couldn't not talk about some of these books, but I'm not going to like spend as much time on them as I would the top 10. And also my ranking for the top 10 outside of the top 3 could change on any given day based off of how I'm feeling. But I'm very excited to get to talk to you about all the books that I read this year that were my best books of the year. So let's start with honorable mentions. These are not in any order. They're just based off of how I read them in that year. And so the first one is God of Malice by Rena Kent. This was the first book that I read from Rena Kent this year, and I've read 3 books since, all in this Legacy of God series, but God of Malice was my favorite. This has Mr. Killian in it. This was the first dark romance that I read where it like really, really went dark. And I was kind of having thoughts of, I should not be enjoying this. It's like, this is all types of messed up. And I am very much here for this. Like, I remember giving voice memos to Leandra, Kelsey, and Brittany about this book, and they were just like, what the heck are you reading? And also, you're liking it? And I'm like, yeah, there's something wrong with me. There's a part of my soul that's a little messed up. But I loved this, and I can't wait to continue this series. It really made me remember why I do enjoy a good dark romance every so often. A book that I was sure I was going to love because I've loved every book by this author thus far is The Favorites by Lane Fargo. I do not read a lot of contemporary. This is probably the only contemporary that made it onto this list at all, but it was so good. It was like a telenovela soap opera with ice skaters, the scandal, the gossip, the drama. I ate this up like with a spoon. It was so good. Is there really that much plot? Not essentially. It's more like a character study, and there's like interviews and podcast episodes and all the stuff, and I just loved it. Hook, line, and sinker. I loved it. It gave me a lot of Evelyn Hugo vibes, which, if we know, Evelyn Hugo is an all-time favorite book for me, so I just had so much fun with this. Now, this one I was hoping I would love because the cover alone and the back is so gorgeous. I didn't want to have to unhaul this book. And that is Don't Let the Forest In by C.G. Drews. I love this book. It was hauntingly beautiful. It's so lyrical. And the relationship between these two boys is just like life-giving to me. And I just loved the pictures in this. I loved the descriptions. I loved the whole story that we go on and just how heartbreaking and heart-wrenching it was. And yeah, it was just really, really eerily beautiful. And I'm sad, honestly, that this is not in my top 10, but I read some really amazing books this year, and I read this towards the start of the year, but I still had to mention it. The next book, I have no idea where my copy is, because I'm still figuring out where I've put books, because if I've read a book, it's in one place, and if I haven't read a book, it's in another place, and that is Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid. I was expecting to love this. I love every single TJR release that ever comes out. I wasn't sure how much I would love this one because it was like a space sapphic romance. Not that I'm against the sapphic romance. I just didn't know about the space component of it all because when I read Carrie Soto, that one was very tennis focused, and I still really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4.5. This one was so beautiful. I read it in like a day. I was obsessed with it. The way that she writes a story is very much for me. And I just felt so attached to those characters and so attached to this mission of her wanting to like really promote women in space. And I really wish I could reread that again. It was just so good. Now, you will see this author pop up again towards the top of the list, but this is Anathema by Carrie Lake. This is the Illyrial Book Box edition. I did read this year, finally, and of course I ate it up. I have never given Carrie Lake anything less than a 4.5 star. I love her. She writes gothic, fantasy, and romance the way that I want it to, and this was her first foray towards the more fantastical side, and I just loved it. I read most of this on the plane ride to and back from Villains and Vixens because this was a Tortured Buddies or Tortured Readers book club pick, and I do have Eldritch ready and I'm gonna read that as soon as the audiobook comes out in March. But I just loved Xander in this, or Zavander. It was just so good. She really is like the gothic mom of literature, I'm just saying. The next one I don't actually have in my hands. I have no idea where I put it either. And it is the only thriller that you will see on this list, and it is The Butcher by Jennifer Hillier. I read this with Kelsey for our Can We Get a 5-Star collab. And I love Jennifer Hillier. I basically love everything she writes, and I've never given her less than a 4-star. It was just so good. It was just so good. Like, I read it in one sitting. I was just hooked. I wanted to know who the killer was, and I loved all the different perspectives, and she reads a book. In fact, I remember when I read Jar of Hearts that I just realized, like, there are authors that the way that they write, it just works for me. And that's how I felt when I read Jar of Hearts. That's how I felt when I read The Butcher. That's how I feel whenever I read a Jennifer Hillier, which is why I'm really excited that she's finally writing a book after like 2 or 3 years off, because I needed it. I really, really loved The Butcher. And last but not least, I don't own this book. And I don't know why I don't own this book, but I will fix that when the new book comes out. Is Direbound by Sable Sorensen. That was also a really good book, and I wasn't sure if I was going to love it or not. At first I thought it was Wolf Shifters. It is not Wolf Shifters. It is just a wolf companion, kind of like Fourth Wing. But I thought it was a really unique take on it, and I loved the trials, and I loved our main character and the different obstacles that she has to go through. And I think it was just really well crafted, and it had good banter, and like it was just a perfectly fun, exciting romantasy that took a unique take on like mating and like how you have to bond with your wolf and like what you have to do in order to survive. And so yeah, I really loved it, and I'm very excited the book 2, now that it's trad-pubbed, is finally coming out this year. Okay friends, it's time to get into the top 10. Are you ready? Now there are some times where I put a series as one because I just loved the series as a whole, so I need to put it together. And so I'm doing that for Us Dark Few and Us Deadly Few by Alexis Patton. And the third book, Us Deviant Few, is coming out this year, and I'm so excited. I read this based off of a book recommendation from somebody on TikTok. I can't remember, like reads with Brit, listens with Brit, something with Brit. And she was talking about how this was a really fun dystopian romance. And so I was like, okay, I do like a good dystopian moment. I do love Divergent. Why not? Let's try it. And I basically read these both in one sitting. And I met the author at Villains and Vixens, and she's just so freaking sweet. These are so good, okay? So we have an underground society because our main character, Kalani, has been told all of her life that if you go onto the surface of the earth, you will die. And so she's in the underground city of Apollo, and she aspires to want to go to the land of Genesis, which is a town that is like safely living on the surface of the earth, where humanity lives, basically, where the rich of the rich lives. She wants to get to Genesis. But she ends up getting into prison because it's not very hard to do so, because the system is corrupt, and gets put a life sentence and thrown into the worst prison of town. But she ends up befriending Takeshi, who is her guard, hence the romance, right? And he also wants to escape. And so they make a plan that they are going to escape together and get to the land of Genesis. And I tell you, this is where I learned that my captive, like prisoner journey really started. I would say that. Takeshi is fan-freaking-tastic. And this book ends on such a cliffhanger that I am hurt, I am offended, I am unwell, and I just really, really, really need to know what happens. So if you want a good, fun, short, dystopian romance, this is the book for you. And they really are tackling really great commentary on a corrupt government as well, and like what it means to be part of a system that is broken. So anyway, this is really fantastic. Coming in at number 9 is the only contemporary romance on this list, and that is Lost and Lassoed by Miss Lila Sage. I do annotate these bad boys, and I actually did not finish, hence why there are all these tabs at the top that I need to go and actually finish. Oh, apparently I didn't highlight this book at all. I just tabbed. Okay. I have to really go in and like edit this and make it look the same as the first 2 books. I love Lila Sage. This is one of the only series that I've ever given 5 stars to all of these books, and this one is probably my favorite with Teddy and Gus. I was waiting on this one for a while. So this one is about Teddy, and she is like the best friend of our main character in book 1, and she's just one of those like go with the flow, very loud, out there, vibrant girls, right? But she also is kind of a hot mess express on the inside, doesn't really know what she wants to do with life, and is just kind of lost in this book. And then we have Gus Ryder, who he is a single dad, him and the woman that, you know, he had his kid with, like they didn't work out, but they're still good friends. They have a good co-parenting relationship. And he just doesn't really have time for a woman. And all he really cares about is his daughter and taking care of their family ranch. However, when the mom ends up not being able to really take care of their daughter this summer, he knows he needs to do something, and he ends up having to hire Teddy as his live-in nanny. And of course, romance and sparks go a-flying from there. I just loved this. I just loved everything that they did for each other and the way that they came and comforted each other whenever they were feeling down. Like, and also anytime that a little kid is involved and there are sweet moments, I really just break and I really just crumble because I just think of my own children. And so this just hit a very hard home for me, and I just loved it. I love Teddy and Gus so much. I wish that I could reread this for the first time. It was just so beautiful. The next one, I am putting the novella, like the pre-novella and the book together. Although I think I only gave the novella a 4, but I'm just putting this together because I really, really love this series thus far. And this was a very big shocker to me. And that is Kissed by the Gods by Katie Rogan, and also Unwritten by the Gods, okay? So this book, I had not really heard of it until I was on Instagram one day and it said get an arc for it, and I did, and I read the arc and I absolutely loved it so much. And then the author was at Villains and Vixens, and I ended up getting signatures, and I ended up buying the books in public a week before they were even released, so I had like an actual copy in my hands. This is so good. So good. It was just such a good romantasy. I read most of this also on my way to and from Villains and Vixens because I had long plane rides, and I just loved it so much. It follows our main character, Lena, and she lives with her family, and they are very broke. They are not doing very well. And she has spent a lifetime having to submit, kneel, and endure to like these awful gods. When all of a sudden, these soldiers come for her brother to basically take her into the army, or take him into the army. And she gets extremely mad, ends up executing the whole entire people that have come for them with magic that she didn't know that she had. And they realize that she's an Altor, which is a god. And there has never been a woman god in the history before. And so they're a little confused as to how she has these godlike powers. And so they take her back to the lands of the Altors, where they end up giving her a bodyguard, essentially, Riot, who is a god-sworn warrior. And they're like, basically, you're in charge of her now. You have to teach her the ways of the Altor so that she can like actually like receive all of her god-given abilities, and like we can make her be one of us because she is one of us. And there's a lot more to that story, obviously, and a lot of high stakes and things occur, and this ended on such a cliffhanger. I love this, and this man, let me tell you, he is down bad for Lena. Riot is down bad for Lena. We are all down bad in this book. It is so good. It was so unique. I loved the world and the magic and the system and everything, and I just was flying through this. I feel like I'm going to say that with every book that I was flying through this, but I just remember just eating this up, and just if a book boyfriend like sells it for me, they sell it for me. And I loved all the side characters too. Like she did a great job making me care about all the rest of the people in his flank. And I just love it. I just do. You should read it. It's fantastic. All right, coming in at number 7 was a book that I did not think I was going to love as much as I did, because I've read other books by this author in their romance category and they were just all right. So I was very surprised to love this, and that is Shield of Sparrows by Devney Perry. I can't even really tell you what worked for me with this book, because this book does not have a lot of plot. There are times where nothing is really happening. There are times where there is a journey for a long time in this book, and if you know me, you know I don't like journeys. I don't like journeys. So why did I like this? I don't freaking know. Maybe it was the creatures of it all. I will say there are a bunch of magical, fantastical creatures that are very unique to this book, and I really love a creature in a book if it's done well, and I think that this was done fantastic. We have our main girl, and she lives in this kingdom where the gods unleashed monsters upon the 5 kingdoms to basically remind them that humans are insignificant and that monsters could take over the world if they so chose to. And she is a princess, and you know, she is gonna get married off eventually to like whoever, to like help neighbor kingdoms and bring them together. And one day this monster hunter sails to their shores, and he's supposed to marry her sister, and he decides that he does not want to marry the sister, he wants to marry her. And their father is like, no, you're gonna marry this one. And he's like, no, I'm going to marry this one. There's a reason. So she ends up having to leave with him And a lot of crazy things happen from there. And like I said, the monsters were very, very interesting in this, and I did not see the ending coming, although a lot of people said that it was kind of obvious. I didn't see it. And yeah, once again, I'm gonna say that I loved all the characters because I did, and that is a recurring theme. If I can love most of the characters in a book, I'm going to love it. Did I also love the relationship between Xavier and her? Yes. Yes, I did. Was it a slow burn? Yes. Yes, it was. And was I invested? Yes, I was. I have another duology for you, and I can't find the second book, even though I only read it like 2 weeks ago. No idea where I put it. And that is the Crimson Moth duology by Kristen Cicciarelli. I did not realize that I read The Crimson Moth this year, or Heartless Hunter. That was one of the first books that I read this year. And then I just recently read Rebel Witch, and they were both 5 stars. And I loved them so much that I bought her newest book, A Dark Forgetting, soon after, because I loved it so much. These books are also one of those books that I just feel like was written for me in the way that the writing style went. It just worked so well for me. We have Rune Winters, who is a witch herself, and she is a witch vigilante because she is also known as the Crimson Moth, and she lives in a town where witches are illegal and they need to be executed. And so she saves witches from being executed under her disguise of the Crimson Moth. Then we have Gideon Sharp, who is our grade A resident witch hunter and is supposed to hunt the witches, execute them, and so forth. So of course, they end up having to cross into each other's paths because she is trying to get more information from him on where the next witches are going to be held so that she can save them. And he has information that she might be the Crimson Moth and wants to get close to her so that he can stop her and stop the whole thing in general. And so they end up having to do that through like a fake little relationship that ends up probably turning realer than they were both expecting. And I loved this. The magic system was a little weird. I'm not gonna lie. I'm not gonna share on that because it's a little gross. I was not expecting that. But outside of that, I really loved everything. And I loved the relationship between the two. I loved how this was written, and it didn't feel extremely YA, which is a thing that I can't always get behind if a book, I mean, I know YA books are going to feel YA, but I don't like YA books if they do, if that makes any sense. This felt more new adult. And once again, I liked all the characters. There was one character in here that something happens that I did not recover from fully. I did not recover from fully. And I think that this ended very well, and I would love to see a spin-off series from this, and it was just so fun and so magical. Coming in at number 5, we have Blood and Steel by Helen Scher. And I had to read this for Battle of the Booktubers. I cannot remember who recommended me this. I think Sam did, Sam Donovan. But I think Leandra also did recommend me this. I ate this up. This is what I want a romantasy to be like. This had the perfect amount of banter and slow burn and tension and yearning and angst and passion and bad girl FMC. Like this is what a romantasy should be, okay? We have Althea. Oh my gosh, my lisp is really getting me with her name. We have Althea Zoltaire. There we go. And she already knows when her death is going to happen. It's going to happen 3 years from now. And so she only has 3 years to become what she's always wanted to be, which is a warrior legend. But in her town, women are forbidden to wield blades. So she can't actually do what she wants to and is destined to do. But that hasn't stopped her from secretly training her entire life. Then some freak incident occurs where she ends up getting to be a Thesmar warrior. And of course, they assign somebody to be her bodyguard, protector, helper, make sure she doesn't F shit up, basically. And enters Wilder Hawthorne, who's very broody and grumpy and does not want anything to do with this woman, because he just doesn't. And she slowly grows on him, little by little. And like I said, this just had everything I wanted to be. I loved them so much. I need to know what happens because at the end they are not okay. And I just haven't read the rest of the series yet because I've just been behind and I've had a hard year. But that's okay. We're gonna make it work. We're gonna fix it. This is so good. Up next is a book that I thought was going to be my best book of the year, and it is number 4, and that is On Wings of Blood by Briar Bolin. I loved this, and I love this author in person. I met her in Villains and Vixens, and she is so beyond freaking sweet. I love her so freaking much, and her PA, Kylie, is also amazing. This is so fun. It's like Harry Potter-ish, Vampire Diaries, just like a dark academy, magical, fantastical, dragons, vampires, you name it, it's there, okay? We have Midra Pendragon at the beginning of the book, and she is half fae, and she has to go to this school of high blood vampires for reasons that I cannot tell you, or else that'll ruin things in the book, okay? But she has to go because she is considered the last of the dragon riders, even though there are no dragons. Dragons have gone extinct. They don't exist anymore. But she is stuck there, and she is also betrothed to Blake Dracaro, who is like this head honcho vampire. And so she's betrothed to this guy who does not want to be betrothed to her, and she's just trying to fight her way through and make it through the school year where there are trials and deadly competitions and things going on where not everybody makes it out alive. And I had so much fun with this book. Is it the best writing that I've ever read? No. It is not, but the vibes were there. It's like, think CW vibes, think Zodiac Academy vibes, okay? The vibes were flowing. Now, this is a little bit on the bully romance side. Blake is very bullyish towards her, and I toe a very fine line with what I like and I don't like with bully romances, but this one seemed to work for me, and yeah, it was just really good, and I was on the edge of my seat just wanting to know what happened, and I don't know why I haven't read book 2 yet, because I adored this book. Our next book I loved so freaking much. I loved this book so much. And that is In the Shadows by L.B. August. This is the special edition that I picked up from Villains and Vixens because I had to have a special edition copy of this book. I loved it so much. This is the one that I've screamed about the rooftops to on TikTok that has our Shadow Mommy tell you, and does amnesia well. The amnesia trope is not one that I go for, but the way that it's done in this book is extremely good. Okay, I'm gonna really mess this up when trying to explain this because it has a complex thing, so I'm just gonna read this really quick. But basically, we have our main character Lily, and she's supposed to be dead because she was murdered in the very beginning of the book on like page 2 by the vicious King Orin, okay? And she is separated from her best friend / love of her life, Theo, in the very beginning of the book when she is killed by him. However, she's not actually killed. It was a facade that the king did to use her for a greater purpose. And so she ends up becoming the Queen of Umbra, but she is given a different name and she's never supposed to reveal who she is. She's now bound to King Asher after King Orin dies, the most powerful and brutal shadow divinist in all of Omnia. And she's forced to rule in secret, and she's just spiraling day by day, getting darker and darker all alone. Then Theodore Kincaid, her man from 10 years prior, ends up stumbling into Umbra and gets captured by King Asher. And so she knows who Theo is, and Theo doesn't know who she is. And so because he has amnesia. And so she has to, you know, kind of spark a relationship and build one with him without revealing who she is. But it also feels kind of not okay because he doesn't know who she is. And he doesn't realize that the love of his life is not dead after all. And it takes a whirl. It takes a whirl from there. And let me just say, we have a bisexual shadow mommy, and it was everything. It was everything. I didn't know that I needed that until I needed it. And I just love the special edition. The only thing that I don't love is that because the edges are sprayed like one color, they're like very staticky. So I need to definitely go through this and annotate this so that it's not as stiff. But this one was so fun, and I think it was done so well, and it was very refreshing. Then we have a book that sneakily snuck its way on in the last like 2 days of the year. And that is Terror at the Gates by Scarlett St. Clair. I loved this. This is where I learned that I love a good urban fantasy. I really do. I really do. Every urban fantasy I've read, I've given 5 stars. And this is no exception, okay? So we have Lilith Leviathan, and she is estranged from her crazy family in the beginning of the book. And she lives in Nineveh, which is this district of Eden that is devoted to sin, and she is like a dancer, okay, with magical powers. So she's a thief, she steals for a living, and she dances just to get away from her horrid family and the church that she's associated with. She ends up thieving someone and finding this very powerful blade, and all of a sudden, people around her that are in possession of this blade end up dying. And so she doesn't know why she's not dying and what this blade actually stands for. And so she enlists the help of Zahariv, which is the head of the Zareth family, which is one of the 5 governing families, and he's always been like a family friend / like bodyguard to her. And so it's up to them to figure out what this blade is and why she is able to touch it and not die. And of course, they get a little close. And this was burning and yearning and passionate and scandalous and had a lot of religious commentary. And when I tell you I was hook, line, and sinker, I was hook, line, and sinker. And the plot, the ending that this left me on and that I can't get a resolution to until October, I am shooketh. But I loved this so much. Lilith is such a badass FMC. And Zahariv is also very down bad. And he's just always loved her. And I just can't. I just can't. I wish a love would find me like that. And last but not least, if you've spent any amount of time on my channel, you will know what the #1 book is. So I will give you a second to say it into the void if you know. Nocticadia. Nocticadia. I need to buy the sprayed edge edition that is out right now because this is the indie paperback. I love Carrie Lake. I do. I had to read this for Battle of the Booktubers, although it was already a book I was wanting to read, but that just made me have to read it. I'm pretty sure Leandra recommended it to me. And it is obsessed. I am obsessed. I'm getting a tattoo for this very soon, a death moth. And I don't know what quote I'm going to get from here yet, but I am getting a tattoo dedicated to this. That is how much I loved this book, okay? So we have our main character, Lilia. In the very beginning of the book, her mom dies of a mysterious illness, but it comes across as her unaliving herself, which is not what happened. And she decides she needs to find out what the hell disease her mom actually had and how it can be cured. So 4 years later, she ends up getting accepted to Dracadia University, which is like this old, prestigious, dark academic school where she thinks she can finally get answers because they're very good on the science forefront. But it's also haunted and mysterious and, I mean, all of the things. Meanwhile, Professor Daddy Devrick, or Dr. Daddy Devrick, who's basically like our Frankenstein scientist character, known as Dr. Death, one of the professors that's in charge of the pathology lab, right? The place that she would need to get answers from. And she ends up getting put alongside him to basically be his TA, with her motives of going to find the answers that she needs, and his motives of not wanting to admit that he actually knows more than he does about her mom and why things are interconnected. And then they have a very not okay teacher-student romance that is just so spicy, and I just loved it so much. I could eat it up, the amount of love that I had for this book, and the fact that it was thrilling. There were things that happened in here that I was shooketh to my core. This is kind of like a romantic suspense, basically. There are things that happened and I was like, oh my gosh. And then when you put the pieces together and you realize what is happening, you are just shooketh left and right. This was so good. I need to read this. I need to annotate it. I need to be in this world again. I did read the spin-off novella Phobia that she did. That was like kind of like a spin-off to this. Did not like it. Think it shouldn't have happened and it should have been a full-length novel. But I'll take that. I'll take this. I just want to be in this world again. This was just everything I wanted and more. The perfect gothic dark romance. No notes. No notes. And so those are my best books of the year. Like I told you, I had so many good books and I just couldn't decide between all of them. So if you got to the end of this video, let's put a butterfly or a moth emoji for Nocticadia, or a skull if you're feeling it. And let me know in the comments down below what your best book of 2025 was. I cannot wait for this reading year. I know it is going to be a banger. I know it is going to be good. I know there are good books in store for me. And with that, I just want to say a special thank you to my patrons who support and love me each and every day. If you're ever interested in joining my Friends Theme Patreon, we have extra videos, exclusive content, extra sprints, readathons, all the things, you name it, it's there. And you can find the information underneath this video. Make sure to follow me on all social media handles. I'm rainybluereads across every platform. And with that, my friends, I will see you guys in a video very soon.